evening viewers and welcome to the Art with World. I am your host WAHEED. Today our guest is Dr. Munazza Yaqub, who is an academic, researcher and short story writer. She is currently teaching in Islamic International University, Islamabad as an associate professor in its English department. The collection of her short stories, Element for the Peach Orchards, was published in 2024. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for inviting me here.
I was just seeing your academic record. You were more busy in teaching, writing books, criticism and all that. How did you come around to this idea of writing short stories? Or maybe if I would rephrase my question, how did you discover a writer in you?
I think I have been teaching and involved in other academic things for more than 20 years, almost 2 decades. And yes, when you say you are an academic and you are a university professor, reading and writing is a part of your life. You cannot say it's my hobby, it's my pleasure, or it's just a part of your life. You read and you write. But what we read, and I have been reading and writing, luckily because my discipline is literature. I teach literature, so I read literary works and I have been writing about literature. But most of writing was research writing, you see, critical analysis of the text and connecting them with the socio-political issues and ideological matters like that, and teaching students and going on to certain teaching pedagogies and focusing on them. So, that was the work we used to do. And then you see, conversations and teaching with the students, it's a everyday activity. And I must say that I thoroughly enjoyed my work as a professor, as a teacher, because I am in this field as a choice. So, I read and write, that's my pleasure, that's my work, and this is what I am. But coming to this, your question that how I discovered this self of me, and how that is also, I can't answer this, that how did I discover. Perhaps recently, 2 years back, I eventually decided, a time comes I think in everybody's life, that when you decide that now all this hectic life and all these professional commitments, I need a break from that. I needed a break. So, when and during those days, I was reading Buddhist philosophy of living the present, being in the time.
Living the moment.
Living the moment, the present, the time. So, that actually made me to reflect. I took break from the university, from my work, and I did not bring the baggage of the work to my home when I took that leave. I focused on meditation, reflection and such other things which were necessary for my mind to be in that mode of the break. Live the moment, discover myself. So, during that time, once I was somewhere in some hill station, and I just fine morning I woke up and I felt that like writing something, and I wrote few sentences. Then the next day I wrote few sentences, and then there was an urge to write more. So, I started writing. And in this way the first story happens, which is also the first story in this collection, When I Write Letters to You. And I just asked my friends to see it and read it. They were very happy and they motivated me that you can write. When I read it myself, I felt, yes, I can write. So, that was the beginning, and then you see, that urge just couldn't let me to take a break from it. I kept writing and writing.
So, I would suggest that you keep taking breaks from your work, because you have produced such a fine collection of stories in your break.
Yes,
and
because
we expect other writings from you as well. More stories, more fiction.
It was such a pleasant experience for me that I think I will continue. I intend to continue it.
Okay. Some people say that writing is not a very pleasant experience always, because it creates a lot of agony in yourself. you start questioning different things which you had not questioned before. So did it happen to you as well? It was pleasant all the time?
Yes, because the nature of this work, as you have read these stories, it demanded that. It was that. And it is agonizing. When you live those characters you have created for your story, you live them. They are not the characters, then it's you. So all that agony, all those questions, all those pains, you live that. But the interesting thing is, it's my experience that even that state of agony and pain and deep reflection, it's agony, it's pain, but at the same time, it's very fulfilling.
Salvation as well.
Yes. The satisfaction which I felt after completing a story, I just can't share the feeling. I can't share the feeling.
I understand.
That's as if the whole burden of your entire self has been taken off. Until you are in the grip of the next one. Then that mood comes back.
Yeah, it's sometimes scary.
It's sometimes scary, and it does isolate you.
Yeah, it's a lonely business.
It's a lonely
Writing
business.
is a lonely business.
Yeah,
that's true. So viewers, this is the book of Dr. Munazza Yaqub, A Lament for the Peach Orchards and Other Stories. I was just wondering, it's quite a value addition to our body of work in English literature being produced in Pakistan. I must say that this work of yours, this collection of short stories, is a very significant value addition in body of work in English literature being produced in Pakistan. Both the style, the techniques you have adopted and the themes you have chosen. Very fresh air in our stories and fiction writing. As far as technique is concerned, we would discuss it in detail. Sometimes it looks like the kind of epistolary short story writing, fiction writing, and we have seen many other examples as well. The fiction written in the letter forms. One of my favorites, Herzog, the Nobel laureate, which was written by Saul Bellow, and White Tiger, which won the Booker Prize. That was also written in the letter forms. And I think that even Herzog letters, they were also not sent, and yours, you think that you have never sent these letters. So sometimes it sways between monologue, soliloquy, dialogue, and sometimes just talking to yourself. So how would you define your style of writing, and how did you choose it? I mean, was it your conscious decision to adopt this form, or it just happened while you were writing?
I don't think so that it was a conscious choice that I will write in this form and I will follow this form. But yes, what was in my conscious at that time, that I want to create intimate conversations. I want to create a mood in one story which is not dispersed by any other thing which happens there in that setting. So, giving names to the character, describing the places, describing the character, that for me were the diversions. I wanted my readers to be focused on that mood and stay in that mood. So, how it should be written, how that emotion, idea could be conveyed. That was in my conscious. So, when I wrote, I started writing this way. I just kept two characters. I did not name the places. I did not refer to this. Just the human characters and more than human life. It moved along all on one emotion. You see, I don't think so it was, the form was conscious, but the idea, I had this idea, and perhaps that idea consciously I wanted to do it, it selected its own mode, it selected its own form. And then creativity for me is a, you say, some novel idea or a work of something in your imagination, you put it in some concrete form. Either it's a painting, or it's a design of the house, or these are the words.
Yeah.
The idea for me is always important.
Okay.
You see, aesthetics of literature are not only the idea, but the form as well. But that form, it has to correspond with the idea.
Yeah.
I think then I knew this thing, that the idea has its impact if it is expressed in a form that actually keeps its essence intact.
Okay.
So that in that way it is conscious.
Right.
In that sense it is conscious. It will be a monologue or it will be a letter, that was not conscious. It happened.
Okay. So in a way, the form and content are in quite harmony in your.
Yeah.
Yeah?
They have to, even the language.
Yeah.
That harmony has to be maintained not only in the overall structure of the work, but on the word level as well. The choice of your words and phrases, the different sensuous descriptions, the colors, the words, and then placing the words in a sentence, and then crafting a sentence, and then crafting a paragraph with the combination of the sentences. It all needs to correspond with the original idea which you want to convey.
Yeah.
Because
That's true.
if you fail to do that, as a writer or as an artist, perhaps you kill your idea then.
Yeah.
So intention was that idea should not be killed.
And I find a very beautiful language you have used it. I mean,
Thank you
in a
so
very
much.
creative way. Sometimes it's very close to poetry, and it's very close to whisper as well.
Yeah.
And I think that correlates with the content, the idea you are pushing through in your stories.
Yes.
And mainly one thing which runs across almost in all of your story is human relationship with environment.
Yes.
How our unplanned and absurd concept of development is destroying our ecology around, and even our relationships, our social interactions are not those intimate as they used to be before. So it's a kind of redefining human relations, human emotions, and also trying to recreate our relationship with the environment around. So I think this is also, we may find a lot of other examples of this relationship of human beings and environment in different texts, in different ways. But in Pakistani literature, as far as I have come across in English language literature, I think this is a new content you have introduced.
No, it's not, because literary environmentalism is a very, very strong movement now.
Yeah.
It started in the West in mid 20th century.
You know, I know it's always there. It was there. It's not the whole discipline, but in our part of the world, this idea has been. It has not been dealt with in other writings. Is it?
Yes, the environmentalism in the sense of interconnection or interconnectedness of life on the planet. To some extent, a bit of it is discussed by some writers. I remember I worked on Uzma Aslam Khan's The Miraculous History of Nomi Ali. She referred to that, and I wrote an article on that as well. People are trying so, but not mainly focused on it, you can say this. We may find instances of it, interconnectedness.
In addition to the style of writing, I think the content you have chosen is very unique, and it's very much required. It's very much relevant in our society. what we have done with our environment around. You have touched it very, as if it's very close to your heart.
Yes.
Would you like to say something on that?
Yes, that was my conscious effort to embed environmental concern in these stories, because we are facing the dire impact of climate change, and that is the wrong we have been doing to our environments and to the life around us. So, that and the theory of literary environmentalism, it says that literature or literary writing is one of the best way that you can raise the environmental consciousness or ecological consciousness. Just give this consciousness to the people that this life around you is not mere nature, something abstract, something to be taken for granted, something for us whenever we want to use it, but that's a life. It's a more than human life and is equal to us. If they are there, we are here on the planet. If we eliminate them, there is no planet and we won't be there. So, literary writing can give this literary storytelling. It is one of the best effective way to raise this environmental consciousness. I was conscious about it. I have been writing my research paper in environment. I developed courses on environmental humanities. So, that was my concern. So, I projected it. I defined it that what is this human choice, that eliminating the life around us to build the concrete structure, and what is this absurd idea of the development in which you are not taking into consideration the more than human life on the planet, and you are going to develop, make a development. This is not development, this is disaster. And you see, with the rise of the modern technologies, throughout the 20th century, we have been sowing these seeds of so-called development, and now the result is in front of us. So, the whole planet is at risk. So, I just wanted to, because my medium is literature, literary writing. So, I just wanted my reader to feel that intimate connection with this more than human life around them, that the human characters in close conversation, in close connection with nature. And this human nature link is prehistoric. You see that history, either nature was a god, or it was an enemy, or it was the object of our art and painting. It has always been there.
They worship sun, winds and all that.
What's the point of building or developing this hostility with that? It's such a beautiful thing. So, your journey of pain, if you take this more than human life along with you, your pain is, you see, it is subsided. In your quest for healing, it is the best companion. So, just recognize that it exists, it breathes, and it's as important as you are. So, you would see that in these stories, though the human character take the conversation, mainly it is between them, but sometimes you is also these more life. And if they are not participating in conversation, they are listening to us like interlocutor, they are the part of that monologue. And because the silence in every story, the silence and emphasis on silence, this is a hallmark. That silence, when human and nature, they are interconnected.
And maybe it also reflects human choices, because most of the people are, at least those who are destroying ecology and environment, they know what they are doing, but they still do it to maximize their profits and all that, and they don't know what they are leaving for their coming generations. So, they just think for themselves, their profit, and just leave everything as if it's not their concern.
This is mainly a capitalist idea of accumulating more resources, making everything on planet literally, including the human and the more than human life as a resource. That is the capitalist ideology. But the absurdity is that whatever you are accumulating, whatever profit you are making, if there is no planet, what would you do? You see, we have put this planet at risk, and this is not now just a speculation. The scientific research, the data is in front of us, what we have done and to which direction we are moving.
In your stories also tell about the loss of human relations,
Yep.
Human emotions. And it's also because of the life we are living these days, which is so much compromised, and because more powerful things, which is modern way of development, they dictate our lives, how we should spend our lives.
You're very much right. You see, since the modernism, the beginning of 20th century, the world wars and all that, so there was a question with the people who think and philosophers and the writers, that why the humans have been so isolated themselves. The sense of alienation, the sense of isolation, meaninglessness of life, which was accurately depicted by theatre of absurd. That was the modern man's dilemma. So, development, technology, capitalist resource accumulation, wars, and then loneliness. Why we are in these pursuits if the ultimate end is this agony? Now, contemporary times, you are very much right that those wars, they have been replaced by so many other things, not only the wars, this onslaught of the social media, this onslaught of endless entertainment and consumerist activities. So, our relationships, our day-to-day activities, what we call our hobbies, what we call our escape, or sometime our pursuits, even very serious pursuits, not hobbies, they are dictated by these consumerism and modern entertainment industry, always distracting us, always diverting our attention, leaving us with a complete sense of void. The humans are disconnected with their own selves. There is a universe, cosmos inside us. We are disconnected from that. The humanness of us, we have disconnected ourselves from it. We are disconnected from our relationship. The relationships, which I must say are very intimate, very intimate. But we have words now, these are intimate relationships. Yeah. The essence is lost. This art of conversation is lost. Two people sit and they can express themselves without inhibition. We have lost that.
You wrote about, maybe it was analysis of the film Ijazat as well.
Yeah.
That was also about human relations and how they are defined, what's the real feelings, and how society tries to structure them. It was so. Can you just tell us?
It was a project. That book was basically the idea and the project of one of our friend Gulsher Bhatt. He is a writer. That because he has engaged a group of writers and friends on the different films written by Gulzar. That we take the script, we analyze it, and we talk about it. The concept of that book is also very beautiful. The three friends, I and two more, Gulsher Bhatt and Sara, they are discussing the characters, the setting, and this theme of alienation, the role of the society in controlling the human emotion and in controlling the human life. That how, despite the true feelings, love, and sincerity, people are unable to connect, because there were societal barriers and the cultural barriers. So, a number of cultural, societal, political things like feminism, patriarchal society, the restrictive cultural norms of the societies of the subcontinent and Asia, they were, and then the psychological makeup of the people who live in these restrictive societal, who live under these restrictive societal structures, how the norms built their mindset and how those mindset through generations are operative in our life, and what disaster people face due to that, despite having that feeling, despite having the truth of feeling. So, the societal structure are stronger or the human connections are stronger. So, ultimately the question is, what is a society? Society is us. So, why it is so hard for us to change these mindset and change the societal norms? So, this film script is actually very profound, and the setting is that these three friends, just like you and me are having conversation, they had conversation.
It's a one-night story.
Yes, and it's a conversation
Yeah.
on all that, and then we
Flashback.
published. Yes, we published it in a form of the book.
Great. So it's very interesting. We have talked about your work, your short stories, and other things. Can you just read out few passages of your short stories for our viewers? They could listen to what you have written. And
The very first story, when I write letters to you, as we were discussing, that it's a letter or it's a monologue. It's just a blend of the two, I must say, techniques. So, because I've been writing, the form of the story is very different. So, let me start from there, from the very first story. I read for a few lines, and then we can move on to the other, as you suggested. So, when I write letters to you, I write about us, how liberating this space is. People write letters when they are apart, but this is not why I write. We both talk here and can hear each other in real time. I can see you have just smiled and shaken your head. All the years we have lived together are here in my letters. Does it now matter to you if I leave this letter incomplete? You are with me when I write letters to you, assuring me that these letters are us and that we have buried our fears about the future in them when things may alter.
Beautiful.
If that day comes, my dear, we will read these letters together and reminiscence about the best part of regaining our happiness and paradise.
Wow, beautiful.
This unshackles me from the anxiety of leaving this letter incomplete or unwritten. Like many other letters we have written in our lives, they will all stay there.
Beautiful.
So, this is the monologue and letter writing, they have been combined. And something about the environmental issues and concrete buildings and wiping out all that around us, that has been addressed in this, the title, A Lament for the Peach Orchard. With this title, I have a story. Can I read a passage from that story as well? This is from The Lament for the Peach Orchard. I came today to the peach orchard to tell you the tale of my journeys and share the dreams I have collected along the way. Our history was born here, I think, but the orchard is no longer there. I see a dark, old, ghastly house among the burnt leaves and ashes of the peach trees. Nothing has been as terrible and unbearable as seeing the burned orchard and the ghastly concrete structure built on its ashes. The house is surrounded by some strange weeds and plants, uncultivated, damp and smelling, and in colors I have not seen before, all of which give off an offensive smell. Legend says that as the earth begins to die and the souls catch incurable diseases, these weeds and flowers sprout out.
Beautiful.
The souls die before the bodies that shroud them. This marks the end of the human race. I stand in silence, lost in uncertainty, unsure of what to do. There is no path to follow or light to guide in this vast expanse of desolation. The cold wind groans through the scorched tree as the evening shadows engulf me, slowly blending into the haze of the gloom of the dead orchard. Not a single living thing stirs in the dreary landscape where the cold, dark house stands surrounded by burnt foliage. A tiny brook passes silently, mourning the grief of the perished peach orchard. I gaze upon the cold stone walls of the gloomy house, numbed with deep sadness. I gasp for air to breathe and ease my heart, feeling suffocated under deep anguish, the anguish of the absurdity of the human choices, the choices that construct a meaningless world. I still search for answers. The orchard has been burned. With it, all lives have been silenced, and all colors have been ravished to build this dark abode.
So, in your stories, you are trying to rediscover meanings in a meaningless world.
Yes, the
human
human
world
choices.
Where meanings have been lost.
Yes, the human choices. If we are replacing nature with concrete building, if we are replacing the meaningful human connection with just the artificial bonds, if we are replacing the satisfaction which we gain in solitude and a reflection and connecting with our soul in the meaningless consumerist entertainment activities, then this is the absurdity of the choices. Because absurdity means that meaningless, what in return we are getting? The planet is dying, our souls are turning barren, we are exposed to number of psychological problems, physical issues, disconnection in the human society, alienation, isolation. So what we are getting out of these choices? So this is the last one you talked about.
People also say that absurdity increases with the same ratio as the current model of development.
Rather increasing our not only physical but our psychological diseases. You see, their ratio has much increased. A pretty concrete research is available in this field.
Maybe these diseases were always there and we just came to know it now because we can identify them.
Maybe,
better.
But the increase.
I mean, loneliness is always in human history.
Yes, loneliness is there. But I don't think so that all this research is just, it just says that it is increasing and it's not valid. It is valid because these conversations actually started during the modernism. When the modernist man at the turn of the 20th century encountered 2 world wars and economic collapse. You see, and then we see the establishment of the theatre of absurd, addressing meaninglessness of the human choices. The war was human choice. You see, capitalist developments are human choice, but these choices, they have resulted in what? So, the theatre of absurd, Beckett and the other, they address this meaninglessness and isolation.
Don't you think that war has always been there in human history? It was the modernists who discovered its effects on human societies.
Yes, war has always been there, and this is one of the survival is the human instinct. But perhaps these things were compensated by so many other things in the surrounding. And the more human race is, you see, controlling the most part of the planet, it is spreading this pernicious impact, or the, you see, invention of the more dangerous and impactful weapons.
Maybe there is need to do some more work on human instincts to grab power at any cost.
Sheikh Sadi said that the nature of wolf cannot be changed even if it is brought up among the human and by the human. Yes, but education and what we say civilization, that means to tame those instincts. And nourish the other better self of the human. But with the passage of time, don't you think that we have failed to do that?
I want to hear yours because this is your entry.
Yes, we call ourselves civilized, and then this all bloodshed.
You know, I mean, it's so insensitivity. It's just happening in front of everyone.
And we just click it and we post it.
And we don't even bother about what's happening, whatever the reasons are.
Whatever the reasons are.
Just mass killings in most part of the world at this time, in Middle East and other places. It's just horrendous.
So why we, as you mentioned the past, that wars were there and the wars were for the resources, resources. But what I meant by education and civilization, that haven't we civilized ourselves enough that grabbing the resources and power, we should invent some other ways?
We should.
You see, or I could have called that we are civilized and our civilization have been developed if we had invented those ways of living as a human with the better side of us, with the better self of us. If the same instinct and the same methods on the bigger, much bigger scale we are doing, then you are right, there is no difference between those societies and modernist societies. So this is what I wanted to talk, that we need to reflect, we need to indulge, and we need to empower those soft emotions. We need to empower that very human, good, soft self of us.
There are a lot to talk about this, and
Yes,
we
so
can
I
go
and
on
you,
and on this topic.
you talk
That's-
about the technique of I and you, that
yeah,
what is,
because you appears in most of your short stories, and I was just wondering, who is you? It's your other self, it's someone else around you, it's a ambience around you, it's a nature around you.
It's all.
It's all.
You and I is
Unity
all.
of everything.
Yes, I is this and you is this.
Mm.
I is not the individual, one individual, a particular individual. I can be you, I can be any other human, a human in search of this interconnectedness, human in search of this engaging conversation, human who has the ability to reflect and feels and think about that. Same is the you. You can be the other self with whom we engage in this conversation, who is on the same intellectual, emotional level where we are, and conversation is not necessarily through the words, but it is maybe through the gestures. It may be through the gestures of the eye or the gesture of, or sometime where you must have noticed the silence, hours of silence, the conversation which is done even through the silence. That companionship, maybe it is the other self of you, maybe it's the ideal self which we do not find in the human world, and we lack such relationships, so individuals are pushed to this isolations and they are in self-talk. Or maybe some concrete person, or maybe these different forms of nature around us that we are in conversation. But this is something which need to be explored by other people as well, because this is how I feel that the human, they should talk and live this way. And as you said that you want me, just a passage which may show that what type of this you and I connection is. The title of the story is The Other Universe. So one character is talking to the other, and the other character, you maintain your deep, quiet posture, your eyes filled with affection and disbelief, while the rain falls gently outside the window. You see the character and the rain, just see the posture, quiet posture, silence and the rain. That deep connection, anybody. Anybody who has this connection and feels it. Then in silence, the silence continues. In silence, I sit next to you, holding your cold hand. We both have many thoughts, but neither of us expresses them. It is silence, a welcoming silence that urges us to speak, but as always, we do not express our feelings, the unique and exceptional aspect of our relationship. In the alternative universe, words are easy to use to express everything that has filled our hearts. I say, breaking the silence again, when you come with me, you will see that we can say whatever we want as we sit close to the tall lilies, knowing that no harm can come to us, that no one can enter until we consent. If you come with me beyond the darkness of fear, we will meet in joy before all is lost. We must choose the path that will take us away from this fear leading towards the door. I cannot, and no one else can persuade you to take the path. You must decide yourself. There is no other way. I will bring you here when you are ready. We will have many tales to tell as we walk under the whispers of leaves amid the fragrance of the blossoming trees, and the young sun will roll away the mist and welcome the airy creatures. Our conversations will never be poisoned, take wrong turns, or lead to distressing embarrassment. We will always speak from the heart, because there is nothing to hide, nothing to make us feel uncomfortable, and nothing that must be kept within unnatural boundaries. We do not need validation from anyone but ourselves. We will sit and talk on long, wide summer afternoons, and the words will carry our spirit, forming a symphony that will open us up and eliminate our fear. We will breathe in beauty and light while walking along moonlit paths scented with roses.
Beautiful.
So this is the relationship of I and you. So you see, it can be interpreted in many ways.
Yeah. So coming back to your other writings and the critical work you have done, You have published a book on Muslim women writing in South Asia or subcontinent.
Subcontinent. I won't take the credit of that book. I edited it.
Okay.
That is mainly, it was a project of my students who were also the members of Critical Thinking Forum.
Okay.
We were discussing feminist literary theory and literature, and most of the theory and literature we were focusing that was from the West. So we eventually came to this point, how about the indigenous feminist movement of Pakistan? And whether it started in 80s, or we have the background, and then we went back in the history and we started tracing the contribution of the women writers especially. We went to the last decades of the 19th century and the early 20th century in the pre-partition India of Pakistan, and we found some wonderful names, wonderful work, the women in letters. And those students, they were very excited to do some research, and so they collected some very nice works. They jotted down their notes and made something concrete, and we agreed to publish it as a book. So I worked with them on making their chapters, you see, edited them with my another colleague, and we finally published this book.
And who were the women writers?
They were from the last decades of the 20th century and the beginning of the 20th century. We stopped with 1950 with 1950. I think till Isma Chughtai.
You refer to Critical Thinking Forum.
Yeah.
What is it? And maybe I think you have written a book on that as well.
Yes.
How to use it in pedagogy and literature.
That was actually my PhD research. My PhD project was that in 21st century, do we need to continue reading and teaching literature the way we have been doing it for so many? So I conducted a survey all over Pakistan, and I found that most of teaching method at that time, that was in the beginning of I think 2005-06 when I was conducting this survey. Most places I found that we are all like to teach literature in a very traditional way. But what would be the placement of this teaching and such literature department in the 20th century was my concern as a researcher. Okay. Because in the West, with the rise of the literary theory, Department of English were, you see, transformed into either Directorate of Literary Studies or Department of Cultural Studies and like that. So where in Pakistan we would be moving, what should be our focus? So I thought reading in keeping teaching and studying of literature as an academic as an academic discipline in a broader scenario of education. So what would be the hallmarks of 21st century education? Okay. The generation which would be totally different from our generation of late 80s and 90s. You see, alpha, different type of generations are coming. So what? So the technology, social media, hyperactivity, what? Artificial intelligence. Then the research guided me, which was conducted in the area, development of the cognitive abilities, particularly the critical thinking and creative thinking. These were the two skills mandatory for the generations which are coming. Okay. So why literary studies should lag behind that? We have a very strong component that is critical literary analysis. It's a part. Criticality is the part of literary reading. Interpretation is part of that. Now literary theory have boosted this part, this particular aspect. So that made me to do my project on that. I got it published, and then guided by that research, I practically transformed it into a body study circle with my research students in back 2009, starting with 9-10 students. And then we, after 2 years, then we named it as a critical thinking and forum, CTF. The fundamental or the basic objective is to develop the critical thinking skills of the students, to develop their alternative perspective on the socio-political and academic issues, and can develop a connection between the academia and the larger civil society. So it is a very now bustling forum. We have conducted international conference.
Yeah,
We have
it would
made
definitely contribute into.
yes, we conducted international projects on
Yeah.
many things also.
So Dr. Munazza, thank you very much for being in our show today. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me here, and I was happy that we were able to talk about my debut collection.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So viewers, thank you for watching us. See you next Sunday, same time.